now I would like to throw open the floor to you, the citizens, and 3 points on questions. If they can be brief, if they can actually be questions, not statements, please. And if you can tell me exactly who the question is dedicated to. First question, Zara, yes.
I'm afraid mine is a statement. Thank you all for your, particularly Melissa, for what you were just talking about. But I do think that as a member of AIIA Victoria, I really would like to emphasise the fact that apart from just one photograph, nothing's been mentioned about our study tours. And we have had over the last 4 years, Christian, you were in East Timor. I've been involved with the one to Vietnam this year. Indonesia I led 2 years ago, Russia 3 years ago. We're now looking at going to China in May next year. That actually as a membership-based organisation and targeting at a lower level than what Melissa's just been talking about with the Australia-Indonesia dialogue, that we are already doing the most fantastic job in enabling our members to have people-to-people contact with similar people in other countries. So I would just like to commend AIIA Victoria on this ongoing activity, which is so much relevant to what we're talking about tonight. That's all.
Thank you, Zara. I'd like to stress the importance of that as well. I was part of the study tour last year, and since then I've been back to East Timor and I've got a few key contacts from there, and they'll no doubt be visiting me as well here in Melbourne. Yes, next question. Yes, please. In the front there.
Yeah, I just would like to ask how you get over issues of empowerment. I think that citizens as a whole, maybe especially in Australia, I think that the woman who was speaking on the Gruen planet last week encapsulated it perfectly when she said Australians like to whinge in the pub, not protest, but in generally to kind of emphasise the feeling of disempowerment or at least lack of action that Australians are often accused of. And I was, I guess, interested in how each of you would seek to address that and overcome that in what you do.
Was that for everyone or anyone specifically?
Yeah, anyone.
Would you all like to address that, or one of you want to say something?
Well, sure. I'll be brief on this. I think it's a very good question, and I think if we found a solution to handling discouragement, we would be making a huge amount more progress as a civilization, if you like. I think that one of the challenges we've been finding, we've come across, is having people really step up and realise that they have a place in the discourse, that they have a role in ongoing activity, and helping them realise that they can contribute to the communities that they so desperately aim to represent. So it's a very challenging area, and I think it's a very important question. So I'd be very much looking forward to some of the other suggestions, other than from our perspective, other than really encourage people to be part of it and get involved, and to continue to be part of it. And it just takes time. It's a long process, and I unfortunately don't have a short answer for it.
Was there anyone else who would like to address that aspect of it?
From the perspective of a Pacific Island community, the comment you made about Australians whinging in the pub but not saying, that would be exactly the same as Pacific Islanders. And I agree with Peter, it's a very difficult one to try and empower people to speak up coherently as a group. But with what we're doing here in Victoria is trying to tease out the leaders that we have in our young people. We recognise that we can't stop there. The elders, and especially parents, those who migrated to Australia at an adult age, need to be engaged in that process. Many programs that have involved young people or Pacific Island heritage, when they have been done, and the majority of them have been done in isolation of involving parents or elders, have collapsed. They've never managed to get the community support. So for us, I know I'm diverting to youth issues here, but empowering young people in a Pacific Island context, you need to engage wider society. I understand that if I want to target young people of Anglo heritage at a sports club, young white Australians, I can go directly there. There's an organisation there that I can work with and engage. Yes, I may need consent from parents and so forth, but I don't really need to engage them. In a Pacific Island context, you really do. So to empower young people or a sector of society, you need to involve everybody. Maybe they haven't developed enough into an easier, understandable way of engagement, but I like to prefer. I like to think that is a more advanced method of empowerment and engagement, is involving everybody. I know it's hard to do, but I think that's what we've experienced anyway.
Next question. Yes, up the back there.
Yes, this is a question for the whole panel. Just playing the devil's advocate, aren't you really just talking about schmoozing other people? And that really comes up against the difficulty that people have always had getting on with other people, nations or people stage. That you need a commonality of interest. Don't you just end up with a problem that people have different interests, a divergence of interest rather than commonality of interest? Is that always a problem in any relationship between any states? At the macro level, government level, or micro level between people?
Come.
Let the less academic person answer first. I think that the recognition, I'm trying to be the diplomat here, answering your questions, because I said I wasn't the diplomat. I think Australia has much to learn from older cultures and the way everything is interconnected and how there's a cause and effect to everything. Simple example is this remittance issue, that ineffective aid puts greater pressure on remittance because of competition, which in turn creates poverty right here on our doorstep. So I think everything is connected. So when you say, are we talking about issues that are not common, I think everything is interconnected, so there is more common than there isn't. And the difficulty is the hardest thing is to identify and put the links together. And I think this citizen diplomacy thing, I call it a thing, I'm sorry if I call it a thing, is a great way of trying to show that.
Next question. Yes, I'll go back again.
I've heard a lot about civil society diplomacy, done a little about citizen diplomacy. I've heard a number of examples about AIA is doing things which I as a member have never heard of and no chance to participate in. I've heard a number of examples about trying to catalyse groups of the civil society to enable their participation, which is thoroughly laudable. But I came here to listen to citizen diplomacy, the kind of thing that communicates to the depths of China and Iran directly to people here, mediated by communications set up by Israelis. I've been part of the digital world since 1969, and it's real, it's effective, it has major impacts, and it empowers many people. The civil society diplomacy we've heard of is another intermediate level to allow restricted numbers of individuals to participate in the diplomatic process, which is laudable. But I did come here to hear about citizen diplomacy, and I just wanted to register the point.
Okay. Point, please. Other questions? Yes.
Hello, Scott. I'd like to thank the presenters. Just a quick comment, statement on the point Melissa raised, which I think was really important, is the distortions in the press, the images that we get about other countries. An example was used, the Quran burning. It's common, like, I think we get a very distorted image of North America, and in particular America, and I think it's quite a very important space, the citizen to citizen kind of interchange to help build a better picture of those two countries. And I think the same thing happens with Australia and how we're viewed as well.
So, do you want to pull a question out of that, or was that just, what was it? Fair? Yeah.
Thanks for both comments. With respect to media, the Alliance of Civilizations has one of its four main areas is media and media literacy, and there are some very interesting programs being developed at the moment in terms of training media on how to report, on cultural issues, on faith issues, and so on. And these are beginning to develop some more momentum. And there was a group in, there's been a number of groups actually over the last couple of years that have worked with the Alliance, where the Alliance has a group of academics who are really pioneering this area, working with major institutes around the world to help in this space. I don't know, how much ground that's making in comparison to all of the regress we might be seeing in media, but it is quite a very, very important area. I just want to comment on citizen participation, citizen diplomacy, and I'm not sure whether we're maybe getting confused in definition of civil society or citizen participation, but when referring to civil society or building a civil society sector inside the frame of the United Nations to represent the voice of the citizens, what we're referring to in particular is all members of civil society, be it individuals, be it clubs, diaspora organisations, peak bodies, various organisations who represent the cultural needs and for their communities. So it's really grassroots, ground level participation is the objective in terms of under the umbrella of the Alliance of Civilizations. So I don't know whether that addresses any concern you may have in that area, but it's really about regular people, just like you and I, or anyone regular from the communities, like Kani from the Tongan community, like our friends from the New Zealand communities, from the Maori communities, and from all over the world, really.
I'll just respond on that also. So I agree actually on your comment on citizen diplomacy. I think what's happened has been that until recently, when you're talking about citizen diplomacy, it's been through civil society organisations, because that's how you did it. You got interested groups together and you went on wonderful things like study tours or whatever it is, but you need an organisation to do it. And a good example of that would be something like Australian Volunteers International. When Herb Thies set it up, you needed an organisation to get over and find an institution to work with in Indonesia. You couldn't just do it by yourself. These days, what's really interesting is seeing that the way technology has changed that. So a lot of people are going and volunteering abroad, not through an agency, not through the Youth Ambassadors for Development, not for anything, but because they set it up, because they can make the contacts directly. And I think that's what the digital world is doing. You have a whole new realm of this citizen-to-citizen contact. And I think that's the most fascinating area in this. I agree, and I agree very much with the comment on empowerment, but that then becomes your issue. There's no lack of technology to do this. If you want to be a citizen diplomat, linking up with people all around the globe, there is no lack of technology to do it. You can do it right now. The question is, how do you empower people, how do you motivate them, how do you get them wanting to do that? And that, I think, is a really interesting question.
We may just have one more question. Unfortunately, we've just gone over 1:45. So, final question. Yes.
My question is, how can two Commonwealth countries, Australia and New Zealand governments, change the law under the Social Security Act in February 2001 with no consultation back to people residing in these two countries?
Was there anyone specifically you'd like to answer that question?
Are you referring to the Centrelink
Housing Commission?
I-
Because we come from grassroots level.
Yep, I can respond to that directly. The issue, and I'm glad you brought it up, that's a very grassroots level issue for Pacific Island communities. The issue is that many members of the Pacific Island community in Australia who are not Australian citizens but are New Zealand citizens who reside here, when they are unemployed or get sick, are not entitled to any benefits whatsoever. I don't know what the solution is, and I believe that there is conversations happening with the Department of Immigration, and this peak body I mentioned before, that is one of the main issues that we want to address. There has been a representative from DY, Department of Immigration, sorry, not DY, Department of Immigration, who have come and spoken with us. There is a recognition, and I think there is a slight change to that law to not make it so difficult. Not all of the Pacific Island countries have that issue. Some, especially the ones who come through New Zealand, it's more prevalent. The others, most Tongans who come to Australia don't necessarily come through New Zealand. You'd expect that some Samoans, most of the Samoans would come through New Zealand, so it affects them more. But this peak body, through this citizen diplomacy thing, and I'm loving this term, is hopefully making a correct noise to get that, so to do exactly what you said hasn't happened.
What is the role of the New Zealand consulate and the New Zealand embassy? Shouldn't they have notified us of these changes? What is their role here?
As I said before, I'm not a diplomat and nor am I a politician. I really don't know. All I can say is we are trying to make the correct noise to have the conversation happen.
Thank you. We're just about to wrap up tonight. I would like to invite my deputy up, Stephanie Vassell, and I'll also encourage all of you who may still have questions, by all means you can confront the speakers afterwards. Thank you.
I just want to say on behalf of Access and the Australian Institute of International Affairs, we'd like to say a big thank you to our speakers, Melissa, Peter and Arnie, for attending and sharing with us insight into this new topic, citizen diplomacy. And I would just like to present you with a gift to say thank you.
Thank you. That ends tonight's meeting. Any questions, by all means, feel free to ask the speakers. Thank you. Good night.